You've been hurt before, haven't you? Someone said something cruel and it stayed with you for years. You tried to forget it, but it etched itself into your mind like a scar on stone. You've been betrayed, ignored, underestimated, and every time, it left a mark. We grow up believing that kindness, patience, and understanding will protect us. That if we are good enough, calm enough, selfless enough, the world will respond with fairness. But Machiavelli, the man history painted as cold and manipulative, whispers a darker truth. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. At first, that sounds cruel. But maybe he wasn't talking about ruling others. Maybe he was talking about ruling yourself. Because love without strength becomes submission, and kindness without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. Machiavelli understood something most people never do. The world doesn't shape itself around your goodness, it shapes itself around your strength. And strength isn't about cruelty or dominance, it's about detachment. The ability to stand in chaos and remain unmoved. When you reach that state, when no insult, betrayal, or rejection can pierce you, you become untouchable, unbothered, free. But here's the twist. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding for things that don't deserve your blood. In a world addicted to reaction, to outrage, to validation, to emotional exposure, your silence, your composure, your calm becomes your weapon. Because the moment you stop chasing people's approval, you stop giving them power over you. And that's when everything changes. The psychology of emotional independence. You see, most people live as emotional slaves. Not in chains of iron, but in chains of reaction. A single word can ruin their day. A look, a silence, a post online. It hijacks their peace. They hand out the keys to their emotional state to anyone who shows them attention. This is where philosophy becomes survival. Machiavelli, Stoicism, Nietzsche, Plato, they all understood one thing. Freedom begins when reaction ends. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He ruled the most powerful empire on earth, yet his greatest battle was within himself. Not against armies, but against anger, desire, and the illusion of control. That's what Machiavelli meant too, in his own ruthless way. He wasn't glorifying manipulation. He was describing reality. People are unpredictable, self-interested, emotional. So if you depend on their approval for peace, you will always be at war. Nietzsche took it even further. He said, "He who cannot command himself must obey." Every time you react impulsively to criticism, rejection, betrayal, you become obedient to the one who provoked you. You surrender your sovereignty. Plato described the soul as a chariot pulled by two horses, reason and passion. Most people let the wild horse of passion drag them through mud and madness. But emotional independence, real mastery, is when you take the reins back. So how do you do it? How do you reach a point where nothing and nobody can shake you? You practice detachment, not indifference. When someone insults you, you pause. When someone ignores you, you observe. When the world tests you, you stand still. That pause, that tiny sacred moment between stimulus and response, that's where power lives. Every time you choose stillness instead of reaction, you reclaim a piece of yourself the world tried to take. And piece by piece, you become untouchable. Detachment, the silent power that changes everything. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding for what you can't control. Most people mistake attachment for love, dependence for loyalty, and reaction for passion. They believe that being emotionally invested means being emotionally enslaved. But that's not love. That's fear disguised as devotion. The fear of losing people. The fear of being forgotten. The fear that without their validation you'll disappear. Machiavelli saw this flaw in kings and peasants alike, the need to be seen. He wrote that those who crave approval are the easiest to manipulate, because all you have to do is threaten their sense of worth, and they'll destroy themselves trying to win it back. Detachment frees you from this prison. It doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. When you're detached, you love without begging. You help without expecting. You give without losing yourself in the process. You start to see people not as gods who define your worth, but as mirrors, reflecting who you are inside. In that clarity, decisions become effortless. You no longer act out of desperation or guilt. You act from principle. That's what ancient wisdom teaches. That peace isn't the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. The Stoics called it apatheia, a state of inner balance, where your happiness no longer depends on the chaos around you. Plato called it self-governance. Nietzsche called it becoming who you truly are. When you live this way, the noise of the world begins to fade. The opinions, the gossip, the games, they lose their grip. You stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, do I respect myself right now? That's the transformation. You move from being someone's reflection to being your own light. And once that happens, your relationships change. People feel your strength. Some will be drawn to it, others will fear it, but none will ever control it again. The vision beyond emotion. When you detach, something strange happens. Your world doesn't get quieter, you do. And in that silence, you begin to see. Emotional detachment sharpens intuition like a blade. You start noticing things that used to escape you. The slight hesitation before someone lies. The forced smile that hides resentment. The tone that doesn't match the words. You begin to perceive the truth beneath performance. This is what Machiavelli meant when he wrote that men judge more by the eye than by the hand. People show what they want you to see. But when you are detached, you no longer see through emotion, you see through clarity. Emotion clouds judgment. It makes you interpret actions through personal bias. She didn't call me back, so she must not care. He criticized me, so he must hate me. But once you detach, you realize her silence may be confusion, not rejection. His criticism might be fear, not hatred. Detachment removes the distortion and gives you truth. Nietzsche warned that emotions, when unexamined, make us slaves to others' approval. He said, whoever fights monsters should see to it that he does not become a monster. When you are ruled by emotion, you start mirroring the very chaos you're trying to escape. But when you learn to observe instead of react, you reclaim your power to interpret, not absorb, the world. Machiavelli observed rulers who stayed calm under betrayal. He called it the art of reading the hearts of men. They didn't rage, they watched. They studied who smiled too quickly, who flattered too easily, who stayed quiet when others panicked. They understood that emotional control isn't suppression, it's intelligence. Detachment gives you this same power. You stop needing people to be good or bad. You just see them as they are. No illusions, no expectations. And when you see people clearly, you stop being deceived by charm, guilt, or manipulation. It's not cynicism, it's awareness. The kind of awareness that keeps you safe in a world built on masks, turning pain into power. Pain, rejection, betrayal. These are the things that break most people. But they don't have to break you. When you master detachment, every wound becomes a weapon. Not one you use against others, but one that forges your strength from within. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must learn to act against mercy, against faith, against humanity when necessary. He didn't mean cruelty for its own sake. He meant you must not let emotion make you weak. Because life will test you. People will turn on you. And the moment you let pain define you, you hand them the keys to your mind. But imagine this instead. You take rejection, and instead of asking, "Why me?" you ask, "What does this reveal about me?" You take betrayal, and instead of closing your heart, you sharpen your understanding. You start seeing pain not as punishment, but as purification. Each scar becomes proof that you survived and learned. This is inner dominance. Not dominance over others, but over the one thing no one else can control, yourself. Plato said, "The first and best victory is to conquer self." When you no longer react to people's actions, when their approval, their insults, their indifference no longer sway you, you enter a realm most will never reach. It's a quiet, almost terrifying kind of freedom, because when nothing outside you can shake you, you become untouchable. People sense it. They can't manipulate you with guilt. They can't control you with fear. They can't use your emotions against you because you've mastered them. And this mastery doesn't make you cold. It makes you calm. You can love deeply without losing yourself. You can care fiercely without clinging. You can walk away from chaos without apology. That's the Machiavellian paradox. The less you let the world affect you, the more power you gain to shape it. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember this. You don't owe them your reaction. You owe yourself your peace. Be still. Be watchful. Be untouchable. Because in a world of emotional chaos, the calmest one always wins.